everyone. In today's episode, we will be exploring the rich tapestry of Algerian architecture from ancient kasbahs to historic mosques as part of Algeria's identity and heritage. Welcome to a new episode of Youth Talk. As we usually do, I'd like to start by welcoming our guests. They are both architects. So we have present here today with us Ben Barak Radwan and Noordin Batroni. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, so today we'll be discussing a topic that I think you are very aware of, and you can give us a lot of information on the topic. Would you like to start by telling us what is the difference between patrimony and heritage? It's two words that we use a lot when we're talking about Algerian architecture.
Okay, so there is a slight difference. So you have patrimony, that is the physical embodiment of heritage. So artifacts, buildings, landscapes. Heritage is that plus everything else. So culture, you have traditions, all of that. So the physical and the non-physical, it becomes the heritage that is passed on from generations to generations.
Okay, so patrimony is something that we can touch and see.
Exactly.
And heritage is that plus all the things that you cannot see and are not material.
Perfect. Everything that can be passed out from generations to generations, physical and non-physical.
Okay, great. Can you tell us what's the difference between the two, apart from one being physical and not and the other one not? Because so many people use the same these two words to describe the same thing.
Yes, I mean in common language it's used interchangeably. So the difference is not so you have heritage, that's the big title, and patrimony is just a subtitle of it. It encompasses, so heritage encompasses patrimony. Patrimony is the physical embodiment of heritage. Everything else that you can pass on that is not physical, well, that goes as heritage. So, for example, stories that we pass out from generations to generations, that's heritage. You cannot really touch it or feel it, so that's not really patrimony. Buildings, architecture is what we would call patrimony, physical landscapes, and you have artifacts that are passed on.
Okay, that's great. I think we got the difference here. Radwan, can you tell us what's the importance of protecting our architectural heritage, especially in Algeria, because it's very diverse and some of the buildings are extremely old and they can tell the tale of so many ancient civilizations that you cannot find elsewhere.
Well, it's very important to preserve the heritage the Algerian heritage, sorry, especially for the architecture. And I think we will talk for the most important ones. For me, I think the importance of the heritage is that it's in our legacy. The architectural patrimony, it's really important. Why? Because he really showed us the way that we was living on it, our grandfathers to our fathers until we arrived to us. The most important thing is to show to people that we have identity, and this is the most important. When we talk about identity, a lot of people think that identity is only about the clothes, the things who are the food, etc. But when we talk about heritage and patrimony, we always deny the side of architecture, but we never knows the way that our grandfather was living in Algeria, and this is so important. And this sentence take us to another one, more important than the first. Why? Because when we start to talk about patrimony or heritage, it's like we are drawing an image for the people who are looking to us or hearing us. The image won't be clear if we won't touch the part of the architecture. So we will show how they was living, how they was doing the conception, why they was using this type of architecture. And these things will, how we say, it can unite the people of Algeria from the different places. This is very important. The second thing, it's teach us how to live in harmony, and this is the most important thing to conserve the Algerian heritage, architectural heritage. Sorry.
That's an amazing answer. Noordin, what do you think about that?
I mean, to just add a little bit to that, we mostly spoke about here about the historical significance. So we're speaking about the link to the past, and a link that would be forever gone if we lose these sites. They're not just old buildings. They're physical embodiment of our group identity, of our shared values, let's say. And so that's the first part. You have the identity. I like, for example, there is this old farm town in Japan called Shirakawa-ku. Hopefully I didn't butcher the name. And they're literally time capsules. For hundreds of years, they stayed the same. Not without human interventions, obviously, architects. So people, when they go inside, they can literally relive how people used to live there for hundreds of years.
It's like a time capsule.
Life. Exactly. So that's for the historical part. There's also the aesthetic part. For example, we could give the restoration of old Havana in Cuba. And that's a prime example of colonial architecture. You have the vibrant color facades, intricate, the charming cobblestone streets. You can walk through different styles of architecture from Baroque to neoclassic in just like 100 meters. That's for aesthetic, and it brings a lot of tourism. And my
it
last
does, because you know, most people go there just to take a picture of the colorful
very
buildings.
Instagrammable.
Exactly, just, you know, they want a cute picture, but when they go and they visit, they might get a few informations out of the locals. They might learn the history. So that's how
because
it starts.
They're proud of it. As he said, you become proud of that heritage.
Exactly.
And the last point that I would add is the economic benefits. Here we're going to speak the international language of money. For example, you have Rome. Rome is a prime example of this. I remember 2019, before COVID, the numbers were very impressive. We're speaking about 9 million tourists so far. Before the end of the year, $11 billion, all of them like spent there in shops and all. And we have hundreds of thousands of jobs that are created directly through this.
Yes.
Either directly tourism or hospitality, restaurants, and transportation that are linked to it. And that's 20% of Rome's GDP. So protecting our heritage is important on so many levels. There are a gazillion different reasons, but these are like the main ones.
And to think that Algeria has a very important number of historic buildings when it comes to the Roman Empire. I think we have some that are in better condition than the ones in Rome. So imagine if we can protect them and we can put them into place and we can give them the value that they deserve. I think we can generate a few $1 million from that.
Imagine.
Maybe I will add a point in this. For this, I think before we start to talk about renovation of these historical buildings, we need to get into, if I can say, a battle of awareness. Why? Because what we see now in Algeria, unfortunately, that there is a lot of people, especially the youth. They don't know a lot about the historical or the heritage or the patrimony of Algeria. So the first thing that we should do is that we need to attract them to this domain, if I can say.
Yes.
And then once they get attached to this patrimony, architectural heritage, etc., then we start to think how we will do, which planification we will follow to achieve the renovation, and then we start to think about the money. It's important to think from now, but I think the most important is to show, to share, to attract. Then we will think about the tourism, etc. It's an humble point that I want to add. That's it.
Yes, of course, education and awareness are very important. I mean, once you get someone attached to their own country's historic buildings, I think they will be more eager to defend it on an international level and even try to restore it and invest in projects that might lead to it being used or, you know, having its proper value. So I think we should move on to something else. We talked a lot about heritage, we talked a lot about patrimony. What do you think are the key architectural styles here in Algeria, especially that we have been through many civilizations through the years?
Oh, we have a lot. So Moresque, Neo-Moresque, we have a little help here from the expert.
Well, If we talk about the style, architectural style that we have in Algeria, it's a diversity.
Yes.
As he said, my colleague, that we have Moresque, New Moresque, we have how we call it, classic, neoclassic also.
Yes.
We have also the Osmanian style.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that we can see it until now in Algiers. This is the styles that we get in Algeria. We won't deny that we get a lot of civilizations before, as the Romanian, I don't know if we can say like that.
The Roman Empire.
Romans,
Right.
the Roman empires, with the buildings with stones. Then we go to the Kasbah that we see in Oran, in Algiers, in Constantine, in Annaba, Delis. Also in Timimon Duqsor, it's another type of
Kasbah,
buildings,
right.
of Kasbah also. So I think it's this diversity who make Algeria much stronger than the other countries. If we talk about patrimony and heritage, and especially about the architectural heritage, which I'm exposing in my social media channels as a content creator for the Algerian architectural heritage, and also that I'm trying to explain to my clients also in my office, as a general manager of a group, Al-Ma'mari company, who had study office, construction and build.
So you do a lot of consultations
A lot
with
of
clients.
consultations, and we try to attract them, as I talked before, because they don't know what they had in Algeria and what they will follow in these new constructions, if we can say. So it's important to say that what we all have in Algeria, we have to be proud of it. In a part, and in second part, we have to say, if we talk about the Osmanian style, I think there is a lot of people, they don't know that this Osmanian style, they was tried in Algiers before it was transferred to Paris.
True.
So
Right.
so they took only the good things from
They took everything.
yeah, and I want to talk about points very important, that the labor who was working at this time for the Osmanian, to keep and to make this touch of Osmanian style, was Algerians. A lot of them died in the
process, yes.
process. So it's a big history that
Of course.
our youth, especially the Algerian youth, need to know about it. I think if my colleague want to talk more about this.
That's, I believe, the least we can do, because these people, like our people, literally gave their life for these constructions. So they're not just old buildings, they're this physical representation of who they were. And they're still standing proud because of them. And having people that don't even know that Algerians built these constructions, not other people, our people, their people built them, is something that's a little bit sad. But yeah, it's, I think, our job. And for example, as he said, with social media, for example, we can bring awareness to this, which, again, as my colleague said, is the very first step. So all the rest is
Yes.
important, but without that first step, we cannot go very far in this endeavor.
And when you try to follow Radwan's videos on social media, you see that many people are interested in learning about Algerian architecture. You'd be surprised, especially the young ones, when he shows them a new type of building or maybe somewhere they didn't see before. They're all interested. They're asking questions, which later on he answers, which is quite fascinating. I think the information just needs to be delivered and reach the right audience, because they are eager to learn.
Yes, you wouldn't know if the audience exists if you haven't put the information out there. Sometimes you don't know that people are interested in this, but how would you know if the information is not displayed? So the job of the people that are in this industry is to display the information. We're in a social media era. No matter how interesting the topic is, you gotta make the people interested in the delivery. So why, for example, scientists are not the most followed people on social media? I mean, it's kind of their fault in a way, because even if the subject is very important, the delivery sometimes is very boring,
Can be boring,
which you're
yeah.
not going to find in my colleagues'
No,
videos,
his
because
videos are
both
not boring at all.
are given in proper way, in interesting way. And if you're interesting, people will be interested
Interested in
even
the
if they were
topic.
not in the first place.
Exactly, yes. Radu, can you tell us a bit more about how you shoot these videos? Where did the idea come from? I think it stems from you being an architect, of course, but why did you decide to share this kind of information on social media?
Okay, good. So, first of all, my start in the social media wasn't in the patrimony and heritage. The start it was, we was making lives with doctors and professors in the architectural schools in Algeria to develop a lot of how we say subjects, new topics, etc. And we talk about it as an architect with other architects. And then once we start to see the how we say the sad attacks that we are getting from let me say it from our neighbors and other countries, and especially when all of us saw that they said Algeria don't have any history, they don't have any patrimony, they don't have any heritage. So I decided to get in this field to do my job, if I can say, because I'm obliged in somewhere to defend my country
Algerian, of course,
as
yes.
an Algerian first, as an architect in the second place. So that's why I get into this domain, maybe in social media. It was the first time also. The people didn't know this content before. It was a little bit stressed, to be honest. Sure. Yeah, I didn't know how our people will react about it.
Yeah.
And the most important that before I start the social media in this part, I was thinking a lot. Which way should I use to get into our society? Because you have to choose the best way to attract people to this content. It wasn't easy to make a script for 1 and 30 minutes to describe a lot of buildings, historical and patrimony in Algeria. So this is it was the first challenge for me. And then we, thanks God, alhamdulillah, now I start to, how we say?
You found your place, I think.
Exactly. So, and then I saw that the people start to interest more about this content, and I get a lot of messages asking why you didn't talk about other regions. So now I'm preparing a new concept. That's why I'm not very active in the social media since I think in these 2 or 3 last month, because I'm preparing something new. I will talk about it.
Would you like to announce it to us?
Yeah, I will give let's say scoop, if I can say.
Go ahead.
It's a new concept that we will touch all our regions one by one, and we will talk about the history, then the architectural patrimony, then we talk about the tangible and non-tangible patrimony also. And it will be like a big show in a small page.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Good luck with that. I can't wait to see it. So I think you guys brought up an interesting point. We talked about how colonization can affect maybe the country's architectural heritage. For example, in Algeria, when you walk in Algeria, you can see a lot of buildings that resemble the ones in Paris or the ones in Marseille, which is, the credit always goes back to the French, which is not true, because our ancestors were the one building it and lived in the rocks, and maybe the architectures were French. Okay, we can give them that. But what do you think about that? Maybe it gave Algeria a lot more interesting insight into French architecture, because it became a bit more diversified here in Algeria.
Yes, so if we were to compare architecture to people, we say that a person matures when they travel, okay? And architecture, when we have, for example, Ottomans, we had Romans, French, Spanish. Here it's like the word traveled here, architecturally speaking. And the important thing about this is, if we go back to my colleague's point, which was these neighboring countries are telling narratives. And if you don't say your narrative, if you don't tell your narrative, other people are going to do it for you.
Yes.
So a narrative will be made anyways. So it's either you say your narrative, you defend your narrative, you put one out there, or you let other people talk about it. And in the case of architectural patrimony, the narrative exists physically, and it's our job to just translate it using the proper means. Now it's social media, and there are different ways you can touch the crowd, you can touch people. But again, architecture is very interesting. Everybody is interested in architecture, at least slightly. And for buildings like the one we have in Algiers Center, it was literally a laboratory before they did it back in France. And yeah, they tried it here. It worked.
Yes.
But yeah, you can say that we were the originals.
Of course, we always are the originals. What do you think about that, Radwan, about the buildings in Algiers Center? And maybe you can find them scattered around the country. I saw a few in Annaba that looked very similar to the ones we have here. What do you think about these buildings?
Well, before I give my opinion about these buildings, I want to ask a question because I want to learn about it as an Algerian.
Okay.
Why once we get the French colonization in Algeria, they tried to hide the Kasbah of Algiers? Why? I want someone from them to respond us. Why they hide the Kasbah?
I think because it gave Algiers a very distinctive perspective. Because when you look at Algiers, you directly think of that style of buildings, and they tried to hide it by using or incorporating a new style of architecture. So it would kind of erase our history. I think that was the main purpose.
Because the buildings of Kasbah was very developed at this time.
Right. Yes.
And they want to hide it, to say that we didn't exist before.
Before them, right.
And this is the right answer. And they tried to develop a lot of things before they arrived to Osmanian style. Another things, the people who know the history of architecture, they know that in France, before they make this laboratory, like my colleague said, in Algeria, in Algiers, in Annaba, Oran also, the French people was dying by pandemics.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, they didn't have any architecture. We learn architecture and we know architecture. So I don't accept as myself, I'm not representing anyone, I don't accept that any one of them say that we don't have history and we don't have any patrimony, architectural patrimony in Algeria. Kasbah was very developed. If we talk about the energical things, it was very developed. If we talk about the urbanism, it was very developed. If we talk about security, it was very developed. If we talk
it was thriving before them.
Yeah, if we talk about strategical places, it was very developed. So if they have something similar to this architecture, they show us. That's it. To come back to the question, when we talk about the Osmanian and this fresque, etc., etc., when we talk about our heritage of Algeria, the way that we was building and the materials that we was using, like zlij and the fresque, etc., at the time that we was using the fresque, they didn't have any fresque. So from where they get the fresque?
From Algeria, of course.
Okay, so they start to develop this kind of developed architecture at this time in somewhere as a laboratory using the Algerian labor as how we say
as a power force.
As a power force, they tried all the type of styles, and then they get this final style, and they took the best style and they use it in Paris.
Right.
So if you go to Paris, we will see that we will find this style only in Paris. So why we don't find it in other places? Because they was trying it, and they was trying to find the best version of this architectural style, to take it and to show that we find something new.
So basically they learned here, took their diploma and earned there.
Exactly, yes. I think we talked a lot about foreign styles that are here in Algeria. What do you say we give the traditional Algerian styles a chance? Maybe what's your favorite traditional Algerian style of architecture?
To be honest, one of my favorite places in Algeria, aside from my house, obviously would be Kasbah. For sure, 100%. Every time we have foreigners, that's the first place I take them to. Because as my colleague said, the level of advancement we had at that era, that was hidden. is mind-boggling, because what you have to know is that architecture flourishes when the constraints are here. Okay, so if you don't have constraints, if you have a flat surface, you can do anything you want. But if you have constraints, you build something that has meaning. And Casbah has a lot of constraints. Just the fact that it's in a steep descent like that, just building in that context is very hard. And what would I say? Like, Casbah is one of my favorite places there. And if you go there, just take a liver sandwich, one of the best that you can find in Algeria.
Thank you for the
That's
recommendation.
a must-see. That's a must-eat, I would say, yeah.
What about you, Radwan?
Well,
A must-see in Algeria.
must see for me, to be honest, for me, all of them are special, and each part have his own style, its own thinking, his own environment. Because let's say that the buildings at this time that was following especially the environment, so they was responding in somewhere about the climate, about the environment, if it's in the mountain, in the Sahara, in the east, in the west. So this is why you find a lot of styles, and each style is different from the others.
From the other, right.
If we talk about the places, if we will mention the Qsor of Timimoun, it's an amazing place. And if you go to Delis, you will find the Casbah. It's amazing. If you go to Constantine, you will find also Casbah, and then the castle of the Bay. And then if you go to Oran, the things who make the Casbah of Oran special is that it's made in double level.
Yeah.
So how they could reach this high technology and development of construction and buildings at this time without getting any architect. You know that they start to build the Casbah of Oran in 902 with people who come from Algiers and the people who was living in Oran. From where they get this technology? How they could...
You were able to do that,
yeah,
yes.
how they
That's
could...
amazing.
From where? So this is a real
Mystery.
question. It's not a mystery. I will say it's something that
It's a buried truth. It
Oh,
exists, but it's buried
Yeah.
under multiple
Yeah.
layers
Exactly.
that
Of
we're
course.
not the ones that put there, let's say.
Exactly. Thank you guys for all the amazing insights on Algerian architecture. I think we should end this on the note of preserving these buildings. Maybe a piece of advice to everyone watching us. How can we get everyone involved into protecting these buildings?
So the first thing, if I may, as my colleague said earlier, is bringing awareness. That would be the first step.
Yes.
Bringing awareness. Right now we have something great. So we have, for example, 3D scans that we can make of existing buildings. We have a great company here in Algeria. I know the two founders, Feriel and Doria Tunsi. They make VR
Oh, yes, I saw that one,
restitutions
yes.
of, for example, they did the one in Tipaza, Basilica of Saint Salza, if I'm not mistaken on the name. And you can revisit this space in a
3D,
ludic
yes.
way, in a very interesting way. This is a media that can touch a lot of people. And we're not just speaking about tourism, like just educating the locals. Because once you have that sense of pride, you will protect it and you will narrate it. And now you are an advocate for it. But also in architecture, we have many, many ways that we can do that. To name just 3, like you have restoration, which is putting back the building to the way it used to be at a particular era. For example, Kechawa mosque, then
Right,
cathedral
yes.
in the French colonization, and then back to mosque, which is not an easy thing to do because you have traditional materials and techniques that sometimes are lost in time. And you have just conservation. So you keep the building the way it is,
yes.
and just slowing the deterioration, the decay. For example, what they're trying to do in Venice. Hopefully we'll get to see it before it goes. And yeah, and we have BEAM. We could talk about it in another session if that time permits, because it's a huge topic, but just to name a few.
What about you, Radwan? Maybe a piece of advice to everyone watching. How could we get them involved into protecting our architectural heritage?
well, I won't be long. I will say just try to keep your history, try to keep your identity, because the people who don't have identity, they don't exist at all. So if we won't protect it, no one will protect it. So it's a responsibility.
That's an amazing piece of advice. I think we should protect our history in general. Thank you guys for being present here today with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
I think we have come to the end of today's episode. It was a very interesting talk about everything Algerian architecture and how can we protect it. See you guys in another episode.